The GWM Ora is a relatively recent addition to the choice of EVs available in New Zealand. It's a car I have reviewed and found fun to drive. In this podcast, we take a closer look at the Ora, also known as the Ora Funky Cat, as I talk with Ora owner Neil Johns. Hello, Neil.
Hey, Adrian, how are you?
Good, thanks. Good to have you here to talk about your new car.
Yep, happy to be invited. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I guess we should say you're not. This is not your first EV, though, is it? You've got a bit of EV experience.
Yeah, we bought one of the first. I think our Atto was number 20 off the boat when the Atto 3 was first launched. First car I've ever bought in my life without seeing it or driving it or anything like that. So there was a change in circumstances, and we sold the Atto, and then I had the awful experience of driving a soulless Toyota Corolla hybrid company car, which was free, but not that inspiring. And then I start a new role tomorrow, so I dropped my company car back and needed to find a replacement vehicle, and that's how the Ora came about.
Oh, yep. So what made you buy the Ora with a?
Well, yeah, interesting. Well, my background's in financial services, so I think in money more than emotion, I guess. And my requirements were, A, it has to be an EV, and B, I need the range to get to at most Auckland Airport and back from where I live in Kaiwaka in Northland. So and maybe to North Shore CBD in Auckland as well. Without a charge, due to if I'm doing that, there's normally a time pressure in peak traffic or equivalent. So initially my options were a 40 kilowatt Leaf or an Ioniq. For full electric, but the range on motorway driving was a little bit edgy, and obviously the Leaf degrades over time. I was kind of in the middle of this thought process, and I went and test drove a Leaf, and I was looking online for an Ioniq, and then the Ora 5000 price drop came through. And I'd looked at an Ora when they first launched, only from the outside, because I'm a bit of an EV freak, and just looked at the bodywork and slammed the doors. I didn't actually sit in it or drive it or anything, and thought it was a really good, well-made car, albeit polarizing exterior looks to some people. And and that was that. So my requirements were a standard range Ora. I figured would do it.
So what range did you need just to be comfortable?
Around 240, 250. Yep. So the WLTP's 310. And I've done a couple of trips, one to CBD and back and one to the airport and back last week. Airport and back, I arrived home with 9% on the battery, so it was perfect. Great little car. So anyway, I saw when the announcement was made, an ex-demo at a local dealer in Whangarei, phoned them up and said, what are you doing on the price? Because they hadn't changed anything. And they're like, we've actually just had a meeting about this. So obviously they couldn't have a demo going out of the doors. More expensive than a new one. So it's a pretty astute buy. 34,990. Obviously no on roads, so I saved a couple of grand on top of the 5,000. So that was it. 35 grand on the road for a brand new car. I've got 1,000 Ks on the clock.
Yeah, it's great. And just for the person who doesn't know the car very well, what are the sort of key features of it?
It's a really easy car to own. I mean, it's apart from the boot, which is kind of Suzuki Ignis kind of size, or Kia Picanto. It's really spacious inside. I've not actually sat in the back. It's a great. The tech works. I mean, like any modern car, it bings and bongs at you. That's the trade-off for a 5-star ANCAP rating. You get in the car and it like the MG4. You don't press anything. It just kind of comes to life. There's a couple of quirky things about it. The indicators are on the left, and some people have struggled with the way the indicators work. I've not had any issues, but you can hear I grew up in Europe, so left-hand indicators and the way they cancel and all that's pretty normal for me.
Heaps of tech, isn't it? Heaps of safety features.
Oh, yeah, for the money. There's a couple of weird things, like it doesn't have an external temperature number. Which, I don't know, because it's on your phone anyway, right? So I don't know how important that is. Doesn't have Android Auto yet. That's coming in February, I believe. But Apple does have Apple CarPlay. So there's no native sat-nav. So you really, you do need to hook your phone up. Trying to think what else I can say. I mean, probably for me, the only thing I'd say is I haven't quite got comfortable in the driving seat 100%. Now I'm 5'11", so I get shorter every year, but about 5'11", probably quite short, not quite, but a bit short in the leg. And there's no like bolster at the bottom of your back. I don't know what, I can't remember the name of it. So
Lombard.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. So maybe I'm at the age where I need a cushion or something. Like, my wife's like 5'4", and she finds no issues at all, and is nippy, man. Like in sport mode, she goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving over different conditions, how does that roll out?
The car feels to me, and we noticed this on the test drive and the same driving it since owning it, feels very planted, almost like a Mini. It's like low to the ground, it's wide, sticks to the road really, really well. On gravel, not so much. I mean, at the moment, there's a multitude of gravel areas where I live where they're conditioning the road from the floods and cyclones and stuff. So I've been through a few of those, and it does, it does twitch a bit on gravel. I mean, the tires, the stock tires, aren't probably the best, like most cheaper EVs. Anyway, it just drives. It's very, very assured drive, and the tech works well. Like it doesn't. I remember in the Atto, sometimes it would have quite a violent reaction, sometimes for like lane keep assist and all that stuff. But it's pretty smooth. It keeps you alive, definitely.
Yeah, I was impressed with the cameras, the range of the cameras that the car has.
Yeah, and you can set them as to how long they're on for. And I don't know how much time you spent in the car, but and it's not talked about a lot, but you've got a favorite button on each side of the steering wheel, and you can apportion. There's not a massive amount of options, but you can apportion functions to that. So the left side, I've got the cameras, the 360 cameras, and then the right one, automatic aircon, because the icons are pretty small. Yeah.
Yeah, I like I had the camera down to avoid hitting the curb or anything, so I could see the curb, the pointed down.
It seems to be quite intuitive. I mean, I've not played around with it much, but I noticed earlier, because I was thinking about coming to talk to you when I nipped down to take the dog to the park, and I noticed that it kind of knows what you're doing, like, and it adjusts the camera view based on where you're going and what's to the side of you and what's in front. So yeah, very, very clever car.
And is the range about what they say it is, the WLTP range, or?
I would say so. I think I've got to do 3 full charges for the dynamic gong to kick in, is what I was led to believe. So my airport trip, because I work on percentages, not what it says in Ks, because I know that that's a truer indication. So airport and back. So from here to to Welsford's mostly 100, and then Dome Valley's 80-50, and then from there to the airport's pretty much 100 all the way. And it worked out when I back calced it would be around 250 on like predominantly motorway driving, which is cool. But it's supposed to be 310, but I've not just potted around town long enough to find out whether that's realistic. But I'd suggest it could do it.
How many Ks have you done in it now then? Have you done
not a lot, 600 maybe?
Oh yeah, that's not too, because you've only had it a couple of weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So what do you say, but maybe comparing it to the Atto 3, what are the biggest differences
as a car? I don't know, and it's not for everybody, but there have been some, let's call them characteristics for some Atto owners that have happened, and it's new, and there's updates and stuff like that. Whereas the Ora just seems to do everything well out of the box. I think as a owner, the GWM as a company are quite faceless, big organization from overseas. So the access to information, like with BYD, there's a human presence in New Zealand. I don't just mean dealer network, but as the brand, there's access to people and a community. Whereas for the Ora, there's probably, and this will be changing, I guess, with the price change, but there's probably about 80 people, somewhere around that 50 to 80 people on Facebook that you can ask questions So yeah, so but then I guess for an average car, you wouldn't have that connection to the brand anyway. And there's a lot of unknowns, around when updates are coming and what they're going to include and all that. But otherwise, as a car, it's fantastic value for money.
Any sort of real quirky features?
Um, I think it's easy to get out without turning the car off, and I've had times where, so you have to go into park and then press the button and then get out of the car. And I found if I forgot something and I go to grab that from the car, it thinks I'm back in the car. So I have to go through the whole foot on the brake turn off routine. Other than that, I don't think so. I mean, the radio is slightly delayed upon when you pull away, like the cameras come on, whether it's silence in the car because the cameras are on, and then you kind of jump because the radio kicks in. The other thing is when you're charging, it doesn't show you the charging kilowatts. It shows you in amps, which is unusual because I had a commando plug swapped out. So I already had the wiring in for a wall box, and I got a wall box cheap, and had a Sparky over to swap it out, and it took me like an hour or so. And but there was some dip switches on the wall box that needed to be set for different things, and it was failing to charge. So kind of playing around with it. And when it first started working, I wasn't too sure that it was drawing the right kilowatts because it doesn't give you a lot of information. It just said minus 12 amps is what it said, which is a bit odd. But now I know that it works and I understand it. I know when it's doing what it should. I've not fast charged it yet.
Yeah. Well, I guess which color did you get, just as a curiosity?
Red. So the options were for the X demos red, and it's like a very pale blue, which my wife probably preferred, although she's got a red car. But it's more of a feminine. It's a very, very pale blue, and they all come with the black roofs and the black mirrors as well. So
yeah, no, I reckon the red does look good. I've seen the red before.
Yeah, it's a really nice deep red.
Yeah.
I think the Ora badge on the front's a bit strange. Like it looks like a question mark. I'm not too sure like where that comes from. But there doesn't seem to be any alternative. There's no like AliExpress options to black it out or something. So I'll just leave it as it is.
And maybe favorite feature of the car
got to be sport mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, where we live, until you start going south, it's all 80s and 60s for a bit. Like windy, beach roads, that kind of stuff. And it's such good fun to drive in sport mode because it does tighten up. Everything tightens and is more responsive as you'd expect. So, I'd say that. I did notice when my wife was driving, I was dropping my car down to Auckland, my company car. She was behind me. I noticed the indicators on the LED are always running lights, and watching the front indicators, which look very cool as well, because I obviously hadn't seen it. And I probably haven't spoken much about the interior. The interior is fantastic quality. I mean, and think about when you own a car, you don't really stand outside looking at the exterior, right? You're normally in the car driving it, and that's the experience you get. And the quality would be Dolphin kind of premium quality, I'd say.
Sort of got a mini feel in the inside. Those buttons.
I've never used those middle buttons. Once I put the hazards on just to see if they how they work. But as a driver, I don't tend to use those mini buttons in the middle.
So I was going to say, I think the platform Mini's using for their next EV, I think they're using the Ora platform.
It might be because I think it's a joint venture.
Yeah.
With BMW being built in China because they're trying to get a better price point for the Mini.
Yeah.
My understanding, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good car, yeah. I probably just, if people look at it on the brochure or online, it sort of looks smaller than the actual. In the real world, it's much bigger. Is one thing I noticed about it.
Yeah. And I spoke about an Ignis earlier because I've owned one before, and similar in the TARDIS-like qualities. When you look at it and then you get in it. I suspect what's going to happen is my wife's already coveted the car. In her job, she gets a fuel card. And it's a big international company. So how to expense, charging at home is a bit too hard basket. But I suspect, the idea would be that she would have the Aura in a year or two, and then I'd probably look at a Seal or something.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you if you're looking at anything else. The Seal is very
Oh,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Well, we used to own a Kia Stinger, and that's a kind of a sporty sedan, and and all that. So it's a very tempting proposition. But for what I need, like I said, I made this decision based on my requirements, and that was the car that did tick most of the boxes. Once if it wasn't for the 5 grand drop, I think it would be more like less mass market appeal. People would be thinking purely on looks as in comparison to the alternative at that price point.
So maybe sort of who would it be the ideal? I guess you're sort of an ideal person. Who do you think if someone's looking for the EVs? What are the key
Yeah.
advantages? Or
Well, for an Aura,
yeah, who's a sort of target market? Do you think it would suit best?
that's
I
a
guess.
really good question. Like it's kind of marketed as an about town car, but I think there's far more to it than that. And if you think statistically, the average distance that people go, for the most of their use on an average day, and then you chuck in some longer trips, which this does with some ease. I think maybe an Achilles heel is the boot space because you're not going to get a family. You could get a family in the car because it's very spacious inside, but the amount of equipment you'd probably need, the boot might be prohibitive. We've got a dog as well, so I've got one of those kind of carrier things, whatever the hammock things over the back seats. Yeah. So yeah, I think if someone's in the market, and if you think further ahead as well, when they hit the used market, like compared to a Leaf, and obviously it's a slightly different proposition because it doesn't have the boot space. But if you want something to run around in that can do longer trips, and the other important thing about the Aura in the standard range is LFP battery. An Atto owner and not having to consider the whole 80% charge thing was quite nice. It's like ABC, always be charging. And that was attractive for the Aura as well because there's no proposed degradation under LFP chemistry as far as I know. Um, but yeah, it's a difficult one. And I know speaking to the BYD brand manager, they're surprised that the people that bought the Atto when it's first launched, they couldn't define a target market. It was anything from a 20-year-old student to an 80-year-old retired female. So I think the tech's easy to use. It's very intuitive in the Aura. You can get in the car. It's very familiar, apart from the drives on a dial, the same as the MG4. Other than that, put it in drive it.
And if someone wants a bit more range, there is the extended range version, isn't there? If someone's looking at.
Yeah, I think there's 4 models. I think there's a standard, an extended, an ultra, and then a GT. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure. I think for me as a buyer, I think the standard range, and it's because LFP as well. I think that's the sweet spot for the money. If I was looking at something with more range, I probably wouldn't have been looking at an Aura. I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, there's so many currently price reductions going on, with the political environment and etc. There's a lot of good EV bargains to be had out there.
Sort of final thoughts on the Aura, or maybe just even that where the EV industry is going? I guess since you've got a bit of experience.
Yeah, I'd say to like anybody that's like looking, and you've got the usual suspects of on the tick list for an average person. I'd say go and drive an Aura. I was really pleasantly surprised. It wasn't on my radar massively. Yeah, get in the cars and drive them because it's like I say, what you see online is looking at pictures and stuff is very different to sitting in the car. Um, it's definitely a contender. Assuming that the price point differential sticks as well. Looking ahead, I think it'll be interesting to see. Assuming the clean car rebate is abolished, but once the parties figure all that out, if that is the case, what impact will that have on the market? Because obviously there's 7 grand difference that's been absorbed by the taxpayer effectively, albeit the idea is it's a net effect scheme. And will the distributor and the dealer can't swallow that amount of money. So will electric vehicles inflate in costs in the short term because there'll be a true, and how will that skew the used market as well? Will a used 2018 Leaf be an attractive proposition anymore? Especially with the newer cars hitting the second-hand market. Exciting times, right? I'm sorry, that's my work laptop telling me there's something going on. Yeah, I mean, if someone's watching this or listening to this, they're probably an EV convert to some degree in the first place. I think it's the mass adoption that's people are railing against, and I don't know. I drive past, like I said, I haven't paid for fuel for quite a while, and I drive past and look at the things 288 for 91, and it's like that's not sustainable. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it's good, Neil. I look forward to maybe an update in 6 months or so.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do so. I don't seem to keep cars that long, so...
Yeah, and then when you get it sealed...
Fingers crossed that my life settle down into some consistency.
Yeah. Okay then, thanks very much for your time.
All right, Adrian, thank you.